Hello and welcome to Toastmasters in the Community. My name is Rachel Weiss. I am your host for today. With me is Ken Rafferty, and we welcome you to Toastmasters in the Community. I wish to welcome and thank our crew for being here this month. We've had a rough start for the year of 2020, and I appreciate Kenny and CTV and their participation and support of us in producing this show. Today, we have some wonderful, exciting guests for you. And if you haven't thought about joining Toastmasters in the Community and you live near or on Staten Island, we encourage you to reach out to us. We are looking to add new members of our crew. Ken is going to be our assistant here for our program. And our first speaker is going to be Beatrice Abiola. Adabatelli. Is Beatrice? All right, Beatrice. So she's going to be giving us a speech on American healthcare system versus the world. American healthcare system versus the world. Let's all welcome Beatrice.
Thank you. Hello, fellow Toastmasters. I'll be talking about the American healthcare system versus the world. America is the greatest nation in the world, yet we 28 million people are uninsured. We are the 27th in the world when it comes to healthcare among developed nations. There is, on average, 650,000 people that file for medical bankruptcy on a yearly basis. Can you imagine that? That is more than the population of Staten Island. We spend roughly about 17% on GDP for healthcare. So what are the pros and cons? The pros of having healthcare for everybody, including private and public, is that more people would be able to find illnesses at an earlier stage rather than finding it later, meaning that there'll be more people, the population would grow. So if you might not know, the population in New York City is reducing, especially on Staten Island, for example. If we're able to keep life longer, can you imagine the schools, the funds for schools, for all the services like firefighter services, healthcare services, police departments, all depends on funds. And all of this depends on the population of each city and borough. Now, what are the cons? If everybody has healthcare, we're going to have long visits, long stays at the doctor's office. And possibly we might have higher taxes. But I believe the pro outweighs the cons. So think about it like this. If people are able to live longer and our community has a strong population, we will have more funding. Also think about somebody that's going to represent us. Currently, I believe there's two representatives from each Senate or House represents each state. If we have a lower population, we will lose our seats here on Staten Island as well. So that's also an impact. So also, I will give you an example. I've had the opportunity to live in Lagos, Nigeria, where healthcare, if you don't have any funds, you have no service. So basically, you die. In 2018, I was browsing social media, and I came upon people begging for money, called something like we call GoFundMe pages. And I couldn't understand why in the United States, people are begging to have funds to get treatment for cancer. Well, when I was a teenager, I stayed in England for about a year. I injured myself, and I was able to get service without having any funds. So in England, they have medical insurance for everybody. But the cons is, yes, there'll be long visits at a doctor, and possibility also you'll be able to choose your doctor you want, but at least you have service. So think about this. If you lose a job, I'm aware, I'm not sure if everybody's aware about COBRA. COBRA is a service where really high costs, almost in the thousands. I remember years ago, in my 20s, for example, when I lost a job, and I received COBRA for about $1,800 for just myself a month. I was unemployed. How am I able to afford insurance? Of course, I did not have any insurance. So, if you think about it, in the next, hopefully probably the next 10 years, 20 years, most of us might not have our jobs. Artificial intelligence might take over our jobs. So there might be more people with unemployment. So think about this. When we decide to, when we think about it now, if we fight for health insurance now, if artificial intelligence takes over our jobs, at least we have medical insurance. It is essential that medical insurance is accessible for all. So before I end this, I want you to think about this. What happens in the next 10 to 20 years when we don't have our jobs? How do we support our family? How do we support ourselves? Look what's happening now. People are panicking, are worried about what's with the coronavirus. So it's essential, I believe, that healthcare for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice.
Thank you.
Okay, our next speaker is going to be Rachel Weiss. And Rachel is doing the first, she's doing Visionary Communication, which is from Pathways Level 2. And the title of the speech is Rachel's Style of Communication. Please welcome Rachel.
Thank you, Ken. All of us have a communication style. And one of the things that we're doing in Pathways is we're now at the university level. We're digging deeper to better understand who we are and how we work. In our last broadcast in December, I talked about my leadership style. Today, I'm going to talk about communication style. Again, we went through an evaluation form where it asked many poignant questions, trying to dig deeper as to what it is and how we communicate. I found that my strength in communication is a supportive communication style. But my other two are very close seconds. In fact, the other two are tied for second place, and that is a direct communication style and an analytical communication style. Now, if you know me, you know that I am a very attention to detailed kind of person. I am very analytical. That's my job. I analyze data and I draw conclusions based on the facts and the breadcrumbs that have been left behind. So I have to be able to bring that information out and have the supporting material for that position. Direct communication style is a style that's decisive, competitive. There may be some competition there. It's independent and it's confident. That's something that's very important in dealing with cybersecurity, because I need to be able to get right to the point, explain exactly what has to be done, how it's going to be done, who needs to do it, and there has to be no question about what's going on. So that's direct. But in order for that direct communication to be accepted, in order for that analytical presentation to have the basis for the strategic direction of the future, I need to have that supportive communication style, which is my primary. That style is a calm style. It is a steady style. It's a style that says I'm approachable, that I'm sincere, and that I'm gentle. It's because the person in a supportive communication style dislikes change. Well, I embrace change. If you know me, I say there are 3 things that are constant. We're going to have death, taxes, and change. Either you embrace the change, or change is going to roll right over you. And so I take exception to the fact that my supportive dislikes change. I think my supportive role in communication is to help others adapt to the change that's coming, help others see through my calming and steady and being approachable that change is good if we approach change in the right way. Direct communicators prefer when you get to the point quickly. So if I'm talking to my boss and I know he's a direct communicator, I can't talk to him in a supportive way. I need to talk to him in a direct way. If I'm dealing with someone that's an analyst, they want that analytical style of communication because they're all about the numbers. They're all about the facts. If I'm trying to convince someone that's a volunteer to come on board and work with me and help me accomplish something, I'm going to leverage my supportive communication style. If you know me and if you've worked with me, I'll start with that supportive style to get your buy-in, to let you know that I care about you. And because I care about you, then as I transition into that direct or into that analytical style, you're on board and we're going to get the job done. So while there are many different kinds of communication styles, those are the 3 primary styles that I work with, that I lead from, and that I've developed over the years. Being a leader, an effective leader, requires you to understand how you're wired, how you're put together, how you run and function. It also requires you to see and understand how your team and your customer communicates and how they function. The situation and the timing, that sets the course. One's ability to adapt can drive success or lead to a crash. Be aware, be alert, be engaged, just like driving a car. Your communication style might result in an accident. And that accident on that path could be just a scratch or a ding. But if you're anticipating the course, you can navigate and adjust. And you will be able to determine if the results are going to be that scratch, dent, or fender bender. Hopefully, not a total loss. But if you do have a loss, learn from it, grow from it. You have the choice. You pick what road you're going to travel. Are you going to pick the road less traveled or the highway? Thank you. Our next speaker is Monica Valori. Mona. I'm sorry, I don't have a light up here. Mona Valori. She's an ATM Gold and a CL, and her title is The Other Side. The Other Side. Mona, welcome.
The other side? What is that referring to? It sounds very mysterious. And that might be for a reason. We talk about the other side as something contrary to what we believe. You know, the other side of politics, the other side of the road. But the other side always has a negative idea behind it. And that's why the other side I shall talk about today refers to death. Now, it's important to understand that we shun death, and so we shun talking about it. And it's because we don't know so much about where we're going. What will it be, good or bad? So, like disease, we kind of talk about it amongst ourselves. We don't stand up like I am today, telling the world that I know some of the answers. She must be on the other side of sanity, you say to yourself. Maybe, but I can tell you that I have not been there. Other people have, and they have spoken and written books about it. You can read Sylvia Browne, and most people talked about her as some sort of a crazy person. Fact is, she did make a fortune talking about it. But I want to share because I have had visits from the other side. It started when I was very young, dreams that would happen the next day in life, people who have died who spoke to me, and I would say, go away, this is not real. And then the doorbell would ring, and when I went to answer it, no one was there. But let me tell you the most current story. It really started 7 years ago when my husband took ill. He had cancer. He knew he was dying, but he chose to sit in our living room looking at the rainbows on our ceiling, which are cast by the crystals that I have hanging in the windows. He sat for hours. I wondered, what is he doing? Is he trying to absorb the light, the energy, or does he know something I don't know? Fast forward, about 6 months later, when he died, I said to my sister, please come over, because when they take him from the house, I'm not sure how I will react. She came, we walked, and what did I see on the side of the house as we walked? Yes, a rainbow. But that's only where the story started. I was despondent. My daughter took me away up to the mountains to vacation, but I was not in the mood to enjoy the beauty there. So I sat under a tree. And as I sat under the tree, my daughter came and took a picture of me under the tree with the beam of a rainbow shining on my head. At that point, I began to understand, and I smiled, and I said, "It's okay, I understand. You are giving me a message. I feel your energy." The other side I understood from this story was the rainbow, that bridge that was bringing his energy to me. There are many other rainbows I have seen since, including this past week on the 7th anniversary of his passing. I am so happy that I have had a visit. I look forward to many more, and I want you to know that as I tell people about this, they open up and tell me that they too have had visits from the other side.
Thank you so much, Mona. The other side. It is a mystery. It's a mystery that sometimes we fear, sometimes we don't think about. And I do like mysteries. Ken Raftery is going to talk to us about the history with mystery. And history with mystery is something I'm looking forward to. I love mystery novels and suspense thrillers, and mystery is just part of my life. So Ken, let's hear about the history of mystery. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, fellow Toastmasters and viewers. I really think that if we're a fan of something when we're a child, that a part of us will always be a fan of that thing. And I'm going to tell you how that happened to me personally. Now, I'm going to backtrack to when I was in 7th grade at Holy Rosary School. And one of the books we had to read for English class was And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. And I could tell you the plot as if I read the book this morning. And in case you aren't aware, 10 strangers are invited to a remote island. And a record player goes on and accuses each of those 10 people of having caused a death or even multiple deaths in the past. And then one by one, each of those 10 people are murdered. And their murders follow the nursery rhyme, which begins, 10 little Indians went out to dine. One choked his little self, and then there were 9. So from then on, I was just hooked. I tried to buy as many Christie books as I could, and I tried to read many as well. But as the years went on, I did lose a little bit of interest. But I once again became a fan in 2009 and in 2019. Now, what is it about those years? I traveled to London in those years, and I saw a little play called The Mousetrap, which Agatha Christie wrote. Now, you might be thinking, wow, it was playing in 2009 and in 2019? That's a long run for a play. You don't understand. This show opened in London in 1952, and it is still playing in that same run as of today. So do the math. I believe that is 68 years, probably longer than some of us have been alive. So when I came home in 2009, I said, I want to read every one of Christie's novels, but I didn't quite live up to that promise. But my new promise is to read all of the novels that she wrote featuring the famous detective Hercule Poirot. So far, these are the novels I have read. I'm going to do them in order. The Mysterious Affair at Styles, The Murder on the Links, Poirot Investigates, a collection of short stories, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, and I recently finished The Big Four. Now, I want to backtrack for a minute to The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, which is a classic, a very famous book. If my mother is watching, I want to say there's something I will never forgive you for. When I was back in 7th grade in my original Christie fandom, my mother said, "Oh, I read the book, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd, when I was in school. And the killer was," and I'm not going to say who it was in case one of our viewers wants to read it. There is something about the killer that makes it unforgettable. And I wish I could say that I read the book without knowing who done it, but so be it. And eventually I'm going to get up to the book, the final one, called Curtain. But until I get to that point, there's definitely several classics among Poirot's books, such as The ABC Murders. Death on the Nile is considered to be very good. Some critics say her best novel of all time is called Five Little Pigs. But again, eventually I'm going to get to Curtain, which is Poirot's last case. I never have read that book. But I do know some interesting stories about the novel Curtain, which I would like to share. Now, first of all, The Mysterious Affair at Styles was published 100 years ago in 1920. And Curtain was published in 1975, 55 years later. So that's very impressive that this character appeared in books on and off for 55 years. And I don't think it's a secret, but Poirot does die in Curtain. And Christie herself died in 1976. So you'd probably assume that Curtain was the last book she wrote, but that's actually not true, because she wrote Curtain during World War II. She was afraid that she might get killed in a bombing raid, so she wrote the book at that time just to have like a final novel in case she died unexpectedly. But alas, the book sat in a vault all those years and was eventually published in 1975. And what's kind of cool is, from what I hear, Curtain is set at the Styles house, which is where The Mysterious Affair at Styles is also set. So it's kind of a unique nod back from the beginning to the end. And, you know, I just want to share that going back to when I was in Holy Rosary, there was another girl in the class who was absolutely top of the class student. And she was always reading an Agatha Christie book, it seems. And I would sometimes remember, like, the teacher might say, "Well, we finished the lesson 5 minutes early, you could just relax for 5 minutes." And that girl would take out her Agatha Christie book and say, "Okay, I could read for those 5 minutes." You want to know what young people nowadays would do if they have 5 minutes spared? They take out their phone, send a text or a tweet, etc. So there's something nice about going back to actually reading a paper book, and I recommend that all of you do it. And I hope that I live up to my New Year's resolution and read all 37, that's the number of Hercule Poirot books that have been published. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you, Ken. And my favorite Agatha Christie movie and book was Murder on the Orient Express.
Oh, I forgot to mention that one. I'm glad you brought that up. That really was on my list. That's maybe the most famous one of all.
That could very well be the most famous one of all. And there's something about reading a book that when you watch the movie, it's kind of a letdown. For me, the book was more exciting because it used my imagination. And that's, I think, something that we need to encourage our young people to do, is to read, to develop and grow that imagination. Have their own imagination, not the imagination that's given to them by others in the media. Today, our fifth speaker is Vanessa Robinson. She is an effective coaching master. She is a competent communicator, and the title of her speech is Mother Blood. Mother Blood by Vanessa Robinson. Let's welcome Vanessa.
Thank you, Rachel and Ken. I'm always excited to get an invitation to speak at No Limits Toastmasters. I would like to share a little bit about myself with you today, maybe educate you a little bit and more importantly, motivate you to action. One of my passions, I have interests, hobbies, and I have passions for charitable organizations and volunteerism. What I want to speak about today is my biggest passion, which is donating blood. What do you think of? What do you see? What do you hear when you hear the word blood? You get a picture in your mind. I'll get back to that later. 9 years ago, I donated blood for the first time. I had been putting it off for a while, but because it was all around me, monkey see, monkey do, I decided to give it a shot. Everyone in my family, my parents, my sister, even my grandparents have been donating blood for many years, but I had no idea. There was a blood drive going on at a church near my house on a Sunday morning, so I went, donated the blood. I had no idea when I walked through there how much this experience was going to change things for me, change my perspective on the world. I donated a few more times, and I was told that I'd be getting my own card in the mail, blood donor card. This took a long time. I have no idea what the problem was, but finally, after over a year, I received my blood donor card. I've now been entered into the 1 gallon club. I believe that I've donated more since then, but they don't make another card until you get to the 5 gallon one, which could take a while. Okay, numbers, shocking numbers. I did not know until recently that 1 out of every 5 children in this country is at some point going to receive a diagnosis of cancer. Only 10% of the people in this country that are capable of donating blood actually donate blood. People also donate platelets. I'm not a good candidate for donating platelets, partially because my blood type is A positive and they have very little need for that type. So I've continued to donate whole blood. Many reasons why. One, it's good for you. It's good for your heart to donate blood, and it's also good because it forces your red blood cells to regenerate. It takes about 6 to 8 weeks. So I've been thinking a lot about children and the fact that they need blood, desperately need blood. As I stated earlier, only 10% of people here in this country that are capable of donating actually donate, and it's important. I remember my first trip, and now I'm conditioned like a pro. I admit one of the reasons why I like to go donate blood is I always steal extra juice and treats. I mix jelly beans with Oreos. Sorry, Mom. And I've also tried to recruit a couple of other people into donating blood. I have a young friend, her name is Alicia, and she's only 19 years old, and she's interested in donating blood. She saw me writing the first draft of this speech recently and came at me with a bunch of questions. Fortunately, I was able to answer them for her. She asked me, do they take your vitals? Do you have to eat anything? Do you have to be a certain weight? Which is, yes, true. She has a few pounds to gain before her first donation. You have to weigh at least 110 pounds as a female to donate. I'll tell you what goes through my mind when I donate blood. Sometimes when I feel like I don't want to donate blood. The maximum you could donate is 6 times a year. And sometimes I just don't feel it the same way I don't feel like doing other things. But a long time ago, I decided I need to take action. This is not something, donating blood or platelets is not something that you could just phone in and give somebody well wishes. I've done my best to educate people, friends, to donate blood, to at least find out if you're eligible to donate blood, find out what your type is, and any questions that you have about it, the process. There's plenty of websites with information on how to prepare for your first donation. So what comes to mind for me, what I see when I picture the word blood, I not only can see, I can hear. I picture someone in a trauma unit needing blood. I could hear it. I could hear the audible spilling of the blood. And I think to myself, I hope that's not me someday, but I know it's going to happen. I know that there are lots of caring people out there who want to do good things for people, and especially children, but a lot of people, for some reason, just do not take that extra step and get themselves to the blood donor center. Well, in closing, I would just like to say, for anyone who's never donated before or hasn't donated for a while, that I'm trying to appeal to your most noble instincts and thoughts and sentiments by telling you that I beg of you earnestly, please find out if you are eligible to donate blood or any other elements such as platelets, plasma, because this is an urgent matter, and children especially, they shouldn't have to go through that kind of terror of being told that you have possibly a terminal illness and then are turned away for a blood donation that they desperately need. That's why places like St. Jude's existed. Just remember that children especially, they do not need to face the terror of thinking of death, because from the beginning all they know is life.
Thank you, Vanessa. I, too, am a blood donor. And they only take a pint, so it's not a lot of blood that they take. But I have given over 7 gallons of blood in my lifetime. And they do take your vitals to make sure that you're good. They take your temperature to make sure that you're not sick. And they check also your iron level, because they want to make sure that you have the right kind of iron level. So they do protect you, and they protect those that are going to be getting your blood. So yes, go get yourself checked out, see if you're a candidate, because life is in the blood. And the pint that you give may be the difference between life or death for someone else. We're going to start the evaluation section of our meeting today. It's important when we give a speech that we get some feedback. And immediate feedback means that we can take that, incorporate that, and make our next speech better than the one that we just gave. I'd like to bring John Ramassa up, and he's going to give the evaluation of our first speaker, Beatrice, American Healthcare System versus the World. John?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, guest Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster in the audience. I'd just like to say that this is the first time hearing Beatrice's speech that she presented. It is a good topic overall, with American healthcare being at the forefront of a lot of things that we're talking about and discussing in today's political world and today's climate versus other nations. She offered a very clear and concise speech of what I could see and what I could tell. A lot of factual information was surely presented, trying to distinguish as far as how our healthcare system conjures up and deals with its issues compared to everyone else in the world, and what people are saying as far as what we should be doing. She was very clear. She was very concise, as I stated. Her hand gestures, if any were given, were very negligible, but very observant or obvious. Also, as far as her camera poise and was concerned, if she could look into the camera more than she did. I know she likes it. It's easy for us to scan the audience and talk to the general population that's out there, that's watching and hearing us speak. But in this forefront and in this presentation, when you're dealing with television, try to look into the camera more than you did. But overall, as far as the way you spoke, the time the way you spoke was proper. The way you looked at the overall consistency of your presentation was good. And what you gave as far as a informational setting and an informational speech concerning what all takes up our minds today as far as the healthcare is concerned. And I believe you did a very, very good job for the first time that I could tell. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Our next evaluator is going to be Anthony Drago. He is Advanced Communicator Gold, Advanced Leader Bronze, and he's going to be evaluating my speech, which was dealing with visionary communication and my communication style. Let's welcome Anthony.
Toastmaster. Rachel, a lot of times in your speech you said, if you know me, this is my communication style. And I don't know you, this is the first time I'm meeting you, but the way you explained your communication style was mind-blowing. You broke down the three most important, I think the most common communication styles. Number one is your support. That is very much how I am. You have to be calm and appreciative of people and help others, and you have to adapt to how they are. Secondary was direct, which is also how a lot of people are. I think we're all a combination of all of the different types of styles, but you have to sometimes be able to tell the person what needs to be done and just get to the point and be confident about it. And third, you said analytical, which is facts and numbers. We all know facts and numbers, they are what they are. A lot of things that you did were excellent as far as your hand gestures, as far as the way you related to everybody. And one of the main things that I took away from what you said was how you have to adapt your style to the person you're speaking to, called mirroring. When you're dealing with someone who is numbers-based, you don't want to be able to come at them with a support and gentle and kind comments. It's not going to approach them properly. You know, paying attention to detail is one of the best things that you could possibly do, because you get to do the things and know the things that most people don't pay attention to. One of the things that really hit home with me was that you said effective leaders need to understand how they're wired. And I think that is mind-blowing the way you brought that out, because that is something that we all need to do, not just in communication or leadership, but in life in general. And the thing that really got me at the end was that you have to learn from a loss, and you need to be aware, be alert, and be engaged. Overall, your speech was fantastic, and I absolutely see you being a leader's leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate those points and comments. Our next evaluator is Jane Castigliola. Jane Castigliola. And she's going to evaluate Mona Valori's speech, The Other Side. Jane?
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster and TV audience and studio guests, and Mona for giving a very interesting speech today, The Other Side. When I looked at the title of the speech, I didn't know what to expect. The other side of the mountain, the other side of the street, the other side of the realm. It was wonderful how she organized the speech and then incorporated the story of her husband. That touches people when you speak about something that has personally happened to you. So I felt that it was a very compelling speech and made me feel like I wanted to hear more. And that's always a very good sign when somebody is giving a speech, that people want to hear more about it. You could see how the organization of the speech flowed from beginning to the middle and to the end. The speech, the only thing I felt that you could have done better was maybe have aligned yourself with the microphone or spoken a little louder. Your clarity was wonderful. Vocal variety, excellent. Wonderful eye contact. I thought it was exceptional. I want to thank you for that very interesting speech that you shared with us today, and I hope to hear many more.
Thank you, Jane. Our fourth evaluator is going to be Mona. And Mona is going to be evaluating Ken Raftery's speech, My History with Mystery. So let's welcome Mona.
Ken, it's always a pleasure when you speak, but more importantly, it's always an education. Your speech incorporated both history and mystery. The history in that you gave us the dates, the names, the titles, some of the plot that went through the stories. So the content of your speech was very, very important. Then the mystery part of it. The idea that even though we know so much from history, the future is a mystery. In terms of delivering speeches, you have a marvelous way of emoting ideas, your diction, your volume, your way of gathering words are always interesting to us. You included entertainment of reading a nursery rhyme. You were able to express your feelings with your face. And most of all, you were able to tie in the cycle of history in that you brought out what the present is. But I must comment that you made me think about the future, in that our children with their cell phones may not be recording all that marvelous information for future generations.
Thank you, Mona. Our fifth evaluator is Joan Maurizio, a distinguished Toastmaster, and she's going to be evaluating Vanessa Robinson's speech, Mother Blood. Joan?
This was fantastic. Whenever Vanessa speaks, I listen extra carefully. She never disappoints me, so I have nothing but good stuff on here to say. They want to know she projected sincerity and conviction. Excellent. Source of information was credible. Yes. She phrased it in the terms of the audience. Yes, again. Did the opening capture the audience's interest? And there, too, she's excellent. Did she use facts and logical reasoning to support her views? And I said yes. She spoke properly, used the proper emotion, and persuaded the audience to support her views. I think so. From what I heard, I was interested. Was the speech organized effectively? And I said yes, it was. Her body language and vocal variety. I gave her a limited in the excellent column because I don't think this requires all this moving around and everything. The message is more important than anything else, and I understood the message. Were you persuaded to accept the speaker's views? And there, too, I put a broken check mark because I tried to donate, and for the longest time in my marriage, I was only 108 pounds. So I didn't make the mark. Well, what could she have done differently to make the speech more effective? Not that it would have made it more effective, because I'm sure they adjusted it in the control room, but speak a little louder. And what did I like about the speech? It's filled with important facts. It was very encouraging in a gentle way. You could speak to kindergartners about this because it's that easy to understand. I understood everything. And they can learn even though they're not quite at that weight to be able to donate. But anyway, you are right. Your card's waiting for you.
Thank you, Joan. So we've heard our speeches. We've heard our evaluators. Maybe you agree, maybe you don't. But we're doing it for you, and we'd love to hear your feedback. At the end of the show, you'll see a tag telling you how to contact us. I encourage you to reach out. Let us know what you're interested in. Let us know what topic maybe you'd like us to speak about. We want to be able to serve you, our home audience, with the information that you're looking for. Now it's our table topic time, and I've kind of given you a table topic at home to answer to us. At this point, we have a table topic that I'm going to give to Ken, and my table topic for Ken is online with his mystery, and that is, as a teacher, what can you do, Ken, to engage them into maybe reading or mystery reading?
Well, thank you, Rachel. Yeah, that's not the easiest question to answer, because in fact, I sometimes think how much has changed since I was a student. I was telling students yesterday, I used to study all the time in high school for exams. I expect you to do the same. But I said I didn't have the internet as a distraction then. But conversely, you can use the internet for education as well, because there's YouTube videos, there's Khan Academy. You can learn a lot from there. And I guess ultimately, education isn't just reading history or mathematics or any other subject. There's education to be found in any type of book, whether it be a book about sports or even Agatha Christie. I have to say, a lot of the words she uses in her books, I sometimes have to stop and look up the word in the dictionary myself, so I feel like I'm developing a better vocabulary even at this late stage of my life. So thank you for that question, Rachel.
Oh, you're welcome, Ken. Vanessa is going to be our next table topics person. And Vanessa, when I grew up, I was always reading Nancy Drew, which are another set of mystery books. And I forget how many are in the series, but there's over 50 books, I think, in that series. What did you do, and how did you develop your sense of imagination as you grew up?
Well, didn't really have much, I think, when I was younger. All I cared about was watching soap operas, nighttime soap operas, and playing with my cats. It wasn't until I was older. In fact, it was 13 years ago today, it was March 7th, that I accidentally became associated with and aware of one of the laws of the universe, which is called the law of attraction. Long story short, I didn't understand too much of it, so I started researching and reading and reading and reading, and it seems that a lot of the people in the books that I read, the lessons that I listen to, some of them are the exact same ones that Jane also listens to in her free time. So I would say that ever since then, I donate a decent amount of time every single day into imagination, thinking of it in terms of meditation and manifesting things in my life, goals that I have for the future. And I always remember while I'm doing that, while I'm thinking of my imagination, is to not rush and not worry and not be impatient.
Thank you, Vanessa. Our next table topics person is John Ramasa. John, I'm going to ask, have you given blood, or have you thought about giving blood?
Yes, I have given blood in the past, especially when I was in the military. For 13 years, I was an avid blood donor. Sometimes I had to do it not by choice, but for necessity of the people I was donating it to. I think it's a good service. It's a good cause to do for people that need the blood to save their lives or improve their overall health quality. So yes, in answer to your question, I have donated blood in the past without no real forethought as far as not doing it. I thought it was an honor and a service to do so, and I would gladly do it again.
Thank you, John. Song Ramasa, welcome. My table topic question to you is, what media do you like to watch or read or get engaged in to pass the time?
Thank you, Rachel. I love your question. Media. Yes, I love media, especially newspapers. My son would say it's old school. So, to answer to my son's question about my old schooling, I love Facebook posting, reading also, but mostly I'm famous among my friends that I still subscribe for daily newspaper, the New York Times, Daily News, and Korean Times, and then, of course, Staten Island newspaper. I love media. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Sam. What I'd like to do is talk a little bit about what we do here. What we do here is record 2 shows. One show is shown on channel 34 on Saturday at 7 p.m. And then the second show is again on Saturday at 7 p.m. So if you're not watching us on Saturday night at 7 p.m., it's because our show is rebroadcast throughout the month. I've heard that it's been rebroadcast up to 18 times. Now, we've got people that have asked, how can we see the show? Can we see the show? I don't get CTV. Well, I have great news for you. We have just opened up an opportunity to share our past shows after they've been aired on the internet. There's going to be a Facebook connection and a YouTube connection to Toastmasters in the community. That will be part of our closing byline for this show. And I thank CTV for the opportunity and privilege to be able to share that with you beyond the normal time that the show is aired and produced. We have opportunities for you to learn how to produce a show, to do audio, to run a camera, to do the videos. We're looking for you here on Staten Island to maybe become part of our crew and help us to produce this show. That's why we didn't have a show in January or February. We need at least 6 members to be here as the crew to put on the show. So we love to hear from you. We'd love to get you engaged and involved. As a Toastmaster, I love the opportunity to be able to develop this skill. And I encourage you to look at Toastmasters, maybe to become one of our table topics people, or maybe present a topic of a speech on Toastmasters in the community. Ken, what have you learned over the years?
Well, a confidence, being, as Rachel mentioned, I'm a teacher, so being in front of an audience.
You to come forward.